Charlie.
And I'm Annika.
We've got some really great stuff to share with you guys today. During the past several weeks, we've been working fairly tirelessly to act and pretend to be a professional programmer. It's kind of like going through the process from coding novice to master programmer. Today, we're really thrilled to be announcing this stunning app we've ever created. It's kind of like something we put heart and soul into. It's basically a web app which enables our users to use the camera in their smartphone in conjunction with our app to measure the height of objects around them and also the distance in front of them. To talk more about features about it, I'd like to turn the stage over to Adele.
Okay, so our app features 5 buttons in the crosshair. By allowing access to the phone's camera, users are able to center the crosshair at a desired point and capture the angle value at that point by pressing the corresponding buttons on the screen. Using this to capture the apex and base angle, forward state object, as well as also to the height of the camera, the app is able to use trigonometry to calculate the distance from the user to the object, as well as the object's height. In our process of coding, we started off by downloading the original file, which we used to work on. We then walked through a set of instructions, which resulted in the completion of the height measurement app, which I will go through. So firstly, we use the format self.attribute to set our attributes as public so that they can be used outside the function of our calculations. We then went on to sensitive price orientation, which we achieved by adding an event listener, where a specified listener on the event target is called on, which then lets us create a function that allows beta values to be taken and then displayed on the inside display. We've also found that the beta values that were displayed were a bit jumpy, so we then went on to smooth the beta values displayed on the screen by creating an array for the beta values. Entries are taken out and put in constant, which we then averaged and took as the current values being displayed. Buttons were then prepared to set the height of the camera through a prompt, capture apex and base angles of the object from the camera, estimate distance, and estimate height of the object. In estimating distance, as the button is pressed, the button carries out a function which utilizes the base angle towards the object as well as the height of the camera to calculate the distance towards the object. This distance is then used in conjunction with the apex angle and the height of the camera to also calculate the height of the object. The trigonometric ratio in JavaScript only takes in the angles in radians, so we had to convert everything into radians first and multiplying by pi 1. And finally, in finishing the app, we also had to add access to demonstrators who helped us with any issues in using JavaScript that we were unable to solve ourselves. And now I'll pass it on to Charlie, who will talk about our testing procedure.
Alright. So to test the app, we frequently uploaded any of our new and improved code to the web app that we had. And then we viewed the new version on the project phone that we were given. This way we could see any physical changes made to the app and if the changes had actually worked and there was no faults or bugs or problems with it. We also used trial and error and took out pieces of the code when required if there was a problem. This allowed us to isolate the problem, because it was hard to find or something. For example, when there was an error, the actual web app would only produce a title page and not give the crosshair or any of the buttons that we created. Now to
Thanks, Charlie. And the thing is, we've always been running into lots of bugs and problems all the way, which is quite obnoxious at first. But before we get to that, I'd like to briefly talk about the documentation which has been applied throughout the whole way. First of all, we use Google Doc to share and manage our meeting agendas, minutes, and even our class notes as well. On top of that, we uploaded a copy of solution file to the Google Doc, which can be easily accessed by any of us. More importantly, each member can view the changes timely once the correction and edit have been done by any of us, coming up with the gorgeous ideas about coding, which is quite a incredibly important for us to proceed. So overall, Google Docs have been playing a critical role all the way, which make us a more efficient team. In addition to that, the JavaScript file has been used to save the code itself, which we can copy it off and upload to the web. Lastly, it is necessary that we use the bracket to edit the code and finally upload it to the server. And now I'd like to invite Annie to talk more about the bugs and problems.
Alright, so as you can imagine, we're not master programmers. We've only had about 5 weeks of code, so of course we ran into a lot of issues. And I'm about to talk to you about the main issues that we ran into. So first of all, a lowercase versus uppercase letters. Quite frequently we'd write lines of code, and when we clicked enter to put them on the server to check on our phone, suddenly the app wouldn't work. We'd be going over and over this code over and over again, and everything that we could see seemed to be perfect. But we'd put a lowercase instead of an uppercase letter, which meant the whole code didn't run. So this was a really easy problem to fix, but it was really, really hard to locate, as you can imagine, because we didn't know which ones had to be lowercase and which ones had to be uppercase. Secondly, we had a dysfunction of the height measure button. So for the first couple of weeks, every time that we took the height of an object, it was consistently about 20 centimeters off the actual height of the object. At first we thought this might be an issue in our maths, but when we went over our maths again, we realized that the issue was actually coming from incorrectly entering the height of the phone. When the user had to estimate the height of the phone to enter on the first page of the app, it's quite hard to accurately measure this, and without an accurate measurement of your height, the app will come up with an inaccurate measurement of the height of the object, as that height that you enter is used to calculate both the distance to the object and the height of the object. We also had an issue with the buttons where if we pressed them too quickly, there was a huge amount of lag. So our values for the height and distance of the object wouldn't appear on the screen. At first we thought that the buttons, you'd click them and nothing was happening, so an issue with the buttons, but it turned out with a little more patience, if you just click them slower, they were working, it just took a while for the code to run. Lastly, on some of our Android devices, the beta values were really jumpy, so it was really hard to obtain an accurate beta base and beta apex. Obviously these angles are needed to calculate the height and distance to the object, so if these are inaccurate, your height and distance are going to be inaccurate as well. To fix this, as Ardell mentioned, we smoothed the beta data by taking an array of beta values and averaging them. So that fixed that error.
After finishing the app, we noticed there were some possible improvements that we could make that we weren't able to do before the deadline. We've noticed that the code that we've written only applies to objects that are sitting on the ground or at a level height of the So currently, if you wanted to measure something sitting on a table set, you'd have to mentally subtract the height of the table from the height of the camera. So for fixing this, we'd obviously have to find a way to create a way so you can actually measure it without having to mentally subtract the values. We could broaden the target audience of our app by adding a feature that allows you to convert the centimeters and meters that the app gives to feet and inches, as obviously millions around the world use the imperial system, so it's inaccessible for them. We could also add instructions as you open the app, as at the moment there are no instructions and it may seem complicated to a user or something like that. So it would really simplify the app and allow the user to use it correctly and more efficiently.
Alright, so that's the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to come and talk to us afterwards. Overall, we think that our app meets all the requirements that's been set, and we're really happy with the values that it calculates for distance and height. They've been very accurate to the actual distance and height of the object. So even though there are possible improvements and there have been some bugs, we're really happy with our app overall, and we hope that you are too.